Hi everyone. So today's lesson, we're just going to start to look at part 2 of Unit 3, and we're going to be looking at timbers. But before we kick in on timbers, let's have a little look back over last lesson. And I've got a few questions for you. So perhaps on the back of your workbooks or on the back of your A3 sheets, if you'd like to write the numbers 1 to 6, let's go for 6, and write down these questions and their answers for me. So first of all, what is the natural fibre called used to make paper? So what's the natural fibre used to make paper? The second one is what is added to pulp to make it white? So answer to that. Question 3, what does GSM stand for? GSM. So what do those 3 initials mean? 3 letters. What is a composite? What is a composite? Give an example. So give me an example of a composite. And then question 6 can be run out of space, give 2 advantages of corrugated cardboard. Okay, so 2 advantages of corrugated cardboard. So 6 questions. What's the natural fibre called used to make paper? What is added to pulp to make it white? What does GSM stand for? What is a composite? Give an example of what a composite is. And then question 6, give 2 advantages of corrugated cardboard. So maybe pause the video for a few moments while you answer those questions. Okay, everybody, welcome back. So question 1, what is a natural fibre called used to make paper? Well, the natural fibre used to make paper is cellulose. Different types, but primarily cellulose. What is added to pulp to make it white? Well, we add bleach to pulp to make it whiter, or we can actually add colourings, can't we? So sometimes we want the front of a book to maybe to look red or green or black. We add a colouring to it to change the colour. But in this case, the question said white, so we would add bleach. What does GSM stand for? Let's just remove that line. So GSM stands for grams per metre. Oh, he says. Square. What is a composite? Well, a composite is a mixture of 2 or more materials. Now that's not 2 or more metals, but 2 or more materials, because 2 or more metals mixed together would be classed as an alloy. Question 5 is give an example. A good example from our last lesson would be foam board, but you can have other examples in there as well. But a good one from last lesson was foam board. Foam board being a composite because it's a mixture of paper and foam, 2 layers of paper and 1 layer of foam, giving us that nice rigid board. And then 2 advantage of corrugated card. Well, they could have quite a few things here. You can have it being lightweight, it can be strong, it's a great insulator, it can easily be printed onto, it's very cheap. So any of those would be absolutely fantastic. Okay, good. Right, so now what we need to do is turn back to our A3 covers, find Unit 3, and we're going to look at the timbers section of Unit 3. Okay, so if you turn your pages over while I go through objectives. So you today are going to be looking at the primary sources of materials for producing natural and manufactured timbers. We're going to be able to recognise the characteristics of different types of natural and manufactured timbers and understand how the physical properties of a range of natural timbers and manufactured timbers affect their performance. Because obviously we choose particular materials, not just woods, plastics and metals and papers and cards, as we went through last time, for their properties and what kind of things they give to us. So, obviously wood's been around a long time now. We've used wood for a plethora of things that has played a key role, as it says here, in civilization. You haven't got a section for this. It's just giving us a bit of background that we've used wood for an awful long time now. Probably our primary material of choice for manufacturing pretty much anything and everything we have created in the history of man. Now, we do need to know something here, that we need to understand that we have our trees are either hardwood or softwood. Okay, as it says here, most hardwood trees and softwood trees have characteristics that help us recognize them. Both types can be grown and harvested responsibly in managed forests. This whole turn about managed forests is ensuring that we don't cut down too many of our trees. We'll cover this at a later date. But if we cut down too many of our trees, then we obviously are going to run out of these materials, and if we're not planting them as soon as we do remove them, then we're obviously going to have a big sustainability issue. This makes everything much more sustainable, and it is a biodegradable resource, which is great for our environment. Now, obviously, it's a natural material that we absolutely love to use. There are a few characteristics that we do love about wood. In particular, it's aesthetic. Okay, we look at the material, we can see the material, although it's probably just a rendering on our screen here, computerized rendering. The material on the top of those steps is aesthetically pleasing. We often will have a piece of furniture, or a chair, or a bed, or a cabinet, or something that is aesthetically pleasing because of the material that is used, the wood that has been used to create it. A lot of woods has these knots in, or the grain structure, and when it's stain's been added to it, it really lifts that out of the material. So aesthetically, the look of something, wood can be very, very pleasing. Wood's also an excellent insulator. You'll see a lot of houses and a lot of products can have wood as an insulator. Particular houses in America tend to use wood, and they have the main structure of the building, but also the sort of slatting and the cladding on the outside makes it a great insulator, because it also, as it says on the next one, it's durable and tough, so it can withstand force from the weather and the elements around it, as long as it's treated and stained and protected correctly. If you think about the floor in the small hall and in the gym, it's a wooden material. That wooden material is probably older than myself. And that wood is very, very tough, very, very durable. It's a hardwood material, but also it's been protected by layers of varnish and stains to keep that strong and everlasting from your sort of continuous sort of tramplement that is all over. Is tramplement even a word? But you know, your continuous compression of that material all the time, scuffing it, it is very durable, and it stays in generally a good condition. Felling. Now, this is a term that we use that when a tree is cut down. So when a tree is felled, it is classed as it is cut down. So we kind of use this term quite often. There are traditional methods of felling trees. Some of you may be aware of obviously using saws and axes. One of the largest saws is along the bottom there. More modern style felling takes place with chainsaws, but there is also the agricultural system where they use rather large machines, and when I'm back in school with you, I'll show you the rather large machines that can effectively just pick a tree up out of the ground, or they can just chop the tree off and then chunk it into rather large sections and remove all the branches. Phenomenal bits of kit, and they can remove trees rather quickly, fully mechanized, removing bark, etc. But felling is the concept of actually cutting down a tree. When a tree is cut down, it has been known to have been felled. So softwoods, they come from coniferous trees. So we should all be aware of what a coniferous tree is. These are our trees that they have needles. They are evergreen trees, and they keep their needles all year round. Okay, so we often put one of these in our living room every Christmas. Softwood trees grow faster than hardwood trees. We've come across this concept before. It's nothing new to us. They grow at around about a rate of 25 years to full maturity. And when they do grow to full maturity, we have an excellent resource at that point. The grain is wider, making it quite absorbent, so it will absorb moisture quite quickly. Obviously, it's going to have a wide grain because it's grown so quickly, so the gaps in it are quite large, so it does absorb liquid quite quickly. The problem with, obviously, it absorbing a lot of liquid in wood is when it starts to dry out, it starts to twist and it starts to warp, and we start ending up with faults with this material. Hardwoods, these are sourced from deciduous trees. This means that they are leaf losing. So these are the ones in our autumn terms. They tend to drop their leaves. If you look out the window of the classroom, you'll see that the trees have already started to drop their leaves. Hardwood, it's a slower growing. Again, as we discussed before, it takes about 80 to 100 years to grow a full hardwood tree to its full maturity, which makes using hardwood trees less sustainable than using our traditional softwood trees, because we can use and grow 4 softwood trees in the time it would take to grow 1 hardwood tree. So it makes it much more sustainable to use a softwood. It's sought after for its variety of colours and grains. It is a beautifully aesthetic material. There's a mahogany and cherry and ash and beech, all these lovely hardwoods that we see, and we often see that they carry a premium, a cost to them because they've taken so long to grow, but they also look very, very aesthetic. It has much closer grain structure. It's grown much slower, so the grain is much closer. It's much more dense, so it's not quite as absorbent, but you still need to protect it with a stain or some sort of varnish. Okay, it'll generally be much more hard wearing. Again, I refer back to the small halls floor. That is a lovely hardwood that has been stained, and it is certainly very, very durable. Right, I'd like you to complete task 1 in your worksheets, in your worksheet booklet. Okay, so if you open up even task 1, have a go through the worksheets. If someone can pause this video, and then we'll come back to the rest of today's session. Okay, welcome back. It's task 1 complete. We'll actually have a quick look over those answers. So, task 1. Oh, wrong one, apologies. Task 1. So we should have the answers. Task 1. Reinforce your knowledge of tree types. Complete the table below indicating whether the tree is deciduous or evergreen and the type of wood. So this is kind of you having a bit of prior knowledge here, but obviously deciduous means that it was going to lose its leaves, and evergreen is the one that is needle, sort of pine-based needles that we would often see, and then you obviously find out if it was softwood or hardwood. Obviously, if it's a deciduous tree, it's likely that it's going to be a hardwood, and if it's an evergreen tree, it's going to be a softwood. So if you've gone through this, ash is obviously a hardwood, so it's deciduous. Beech is also a hardwood, also being deciduous. You've got your larch, which is going to be evergreen, and it is a softwood. You've got your mahogany being a hardwood. You've got oak also being a hardwood. You've got pine and both spruce being softwoods and evergreens. Okay, so if you've got those wrong, just make a correction in your table so you're fully aware. Okay, moving on. So, working properties. Consider the different properties of timber when selecting your materials. So certain materials have different strengths, which is the amount of load or compression it can withstand. Toughness, absorption of energy through shock before splitting. Its elasticity, so this is how it can, how far it can be bent out of shape or compressed, and it'll still return to shape. And then you've got its hardness, so how resistant that surface is before it scratches and knocks through abrasion. Tough or hard. So hardwoods are used for a wide range of applications, and as it says here, you'll need to make notes of these, but ash is very, very tough. It's also quite flexible, and it's good shock resistance. Beech is tough, very durable with a fine finish. Oak is tough, hard and durable with variable grain. And then if it says here on the bottom, try and select one of those that would be suitable. So you could perhaps justify that ash, with it being very tough and flexible and shock resistant, you probably want to make this handle out of ash because it's going to need a bit of shock resistance, especially if you hit a rock in the ground. Beech, very tough, durable with a fine finish. So probably maybe this chair or even the cat, I suppose you can justify either or. Oak is tough, hard, durable with a variable grain. Again, you could either argue either or on both of those really for those. As long as you can argue your point, then you'll have a correct answer. Balsa wood is soft and lightweight, but balsa is classed as a hard wood. Okay, we'll often see balsa used for like model boats, model aircraft, etc. And these things are very, very lightweight. It's still quite strong in relation to its weight. It makes great little structures. So often you'll see this used in model making and great for prototyping. Most hardwoods are very desirable. Mahogany is sought after because of its aesthetic and its durability, its colour, this sort of rich, deep, reddy brown it has. A lot of musical instruments and interior wall panelling, boats use this a lot. As it says here, unfortunately, man's desire for mahogany has increased the destructive and illegal logging trade, particularly from places like the Amazon rainforest where this material grows, and obviously this is causing huge illegal logging problems and deforestation and major sustainability issues, which is why we need to make sure we have managed forests. Useful softwood. So softwood is cost effective and readily available. It's an ideal choice for the construction industry, obviously, because it is lightweight, okay, easy to work with. For example, that's pine. Larch is very durable and tough, has good water resistance. Spruce has got this really good strength or stiffness to weight ratio. Cedar contains natural oils, which are great for when you things like fence posts and fence paneling, because it has natural resistance to the elements before you start to stain them. So softwood can be very, very useful, and they have a lot of great applications. So I'd like you to complete task 2 in your worksheets. If you pause the video at this point and complete those tasks, and then we'll go through those answers and see what you come up with. Okay, everybody, welcome back. Let's have a quick look over task 2's answers and we'll see what you've come up with. So, you had the 3 items there: telegraph pole, fence panel and hockey stick. The main materials for them: softwood for the telegraph pole, such as pine; the fence panel, such as softwood, larch or cedar; and then you've got the hockey stick, the only one that's a hardwood in this case, which would be ash. Then it says, explain your reason for your choice. Well, the telegraph pole. Think about softwood materials such as pine. Pine trees grow very tall, very quickly. There'd be no point using any sort of hardwood material for making a telegraph pole because it'd be an awful waste, when we can use something simple, something relatively cheap, and we can make just a very straight pole out of it, such as pine. Fence panels, as already mentioned earlier actually, cedar has, and larch, have natural oils which actually help prevent this sort of natural degradation that's within them. Yes, obviously we generally come along and we'll add a coating of fence paint to them to keep them lasting longer, but they already have that natural preservative built into them, which is great. The last one being a hockey stick, and the fact that it is a hardwood. This hardwood, as we said before, has natural shock absorbency. It is flexible, tough, and it is lightweight at the same time. So ash is a great one for anything that is going to take a bit of an impact. Okay, good stuff. So back to the main worksheet. Let's go through the rest. So tone wood. Some wood possesses tonal properties that make them ideal for stringed instruments. So spruce is commonly used in violins, pianos, guitars, that collection of instruments. Great stiffness to weight ratio, as it says there. Make it ideal for soundboards and great from vibrations. You can often see that mahogany is used in this section here, the neck of the material, because it needs that real rigidity. Okay, that hardwood rigidity. You wouldn't want something that was flexible on the neck of a instrument. But yes, tonal woods like spruce are great for instruments. The third kind of category, I suppose, of woods, we have our hardwoods, we have our softwoods, and we have our third category that you kind of must be aware of, and that's the manufactured boards. Now, these are made up from the sawmill scraps. So this is the low-grade timbers and sawdust and offcuts and little bits that are left over. And these are generally bound together with adhesive, so they're glued together, and they create our manufactured boards. Now, we've all used manufactured boards. MDF, manufactured board, that's simply sawdust and a glue that's compressed to make flat sheets. Plywood, for example, you made in year 9 or 8, should I say, you made an amplifier, an acoustic amplifier. That was plywood. You'll notice that was made up of layers of wood, and those layers of wood are just manufactured sheets of material, sheets of wood that have been glued together to make that thick flat board. Okay, there are other boards as well. Manufactured boards can be susceptible to moisture. If you think here, all this is like an open grain, which would actually absorb moisture quite quickly and quite easily. Boards are rigid, they're stable, and they're supplied in large sheets, which are often a lot wider than the trunk of a tree, so you can get real great good sized sheets. If you look over to the table, the white table on most of his left, that is a plywood top on that's been painted white, and that's obviously going to be bigger than any width of pretty much any tree, isn't it? And that's because that's been manufactured into that 8 foot by 4 foot sheet. So it has great advantages, manufactured boards do. So you have the common boards, just to go through. Medium density fiberboard or MDF, I've already spoken about. This is this very dense board, which makes it tough, has a great smooth surface, and it's suitable to add a veneer to it. A veneer is just a simple coating. You'll obviously, at the oak furniture land, there's no veneer in here. That generally is explaining that oak that they sell in their shop has no kind of additional coating over it to hide chipboard or something. But if you look at the desk at the front of the room or a few of the cabinets in the classroom, you'll notice that although they look like a wood, they have a plastic veneer over them, a plastic coating over them, and then underneath it's just a chipboard based material. So when it talks about veneers, it's just an additional coating over the top of something, and MDF is very suitable to having that kind of coating. Again, chipboard, great compressive strength. The work surface around the outside of the room as well is also chipboard, as well as the desk at the front of the room. The only downside with chipboard is it can chip apart very, very easily. Then plywood, the last one, made up of alternative layers of wood. So what it means by alternative, it can be different types of wood, but at the same time they're rotated through 90 degrees, so they are not all in the same direction, so you get the properties of multiple directions of wood. I'll show you that in the future. And they're available in different kind of forms. Some are water resistant, some aren't. So to improve the look, as already explained, you can add a veneer or a laminate to the top of your manufactured board to make them look more realistic. If you look at the material on the floor that this gentleman is laying here, you can see that is just some sort of laminate or veneered based manufactured board, probably an MDF material that has been heavily compressed, so it's really strong, really tough, and then they just laminated it with just a plastic man-made surface to make it look like it is a wood. Again, I just say look at the desk at the front, look at a few of the cabinets in the room, and the work surface where the computers normally are around the sides, and you'll notice that has a plastic veneer over the top of it, and that is just there to protect that surface and make it look more aesthetic. Knots. Natural timbers have these defects that we affectionately call a knot. These are where the branch grew out of the trunk of the tree, and that's where a knot is. The issue with knots is they have this resin, or this resin seep, and that can actually cause a few issues when you're manufacturing stuff. Issues are that they can also fall out, causing a fault in your product. So yeah, they can have a bit of an impact sometimes on manufacturing. But as long as you identify the knot at the early stage of manufacture and where it is on your material, you can normally plan around a knot. And that is everything I want to do. Can you now complete task 3 on your worksheets, ladies and gents? And then pause the video and I'll be back to you. Okay, everybody, welcome back. Let's have a quick look over the task 3 and see what it says. So, task 3. In the construction of a timber-framed house, select and justify 3 timber-based materials used for the building. So, this could be anything really, can't it? As long as you can justify your answer and say why, that'll be fine. So there's a real collection of answers here that you can talk through. But cedar roof shingles, well, we know that cedar has this natural resistance to the elements. Pine, cedar, soffit boards, barge boards, pine larch cladding on the outside of the house, again for aesthetics, but also for weather resistance. Pine or oak rafters, so these things that hold your roof up. So obviously pine, it is cheap, it's cheerful, and it would work, but oak is also, you'll see in a lot of older builds, using that real strong material to hold your roof up. Pine, oak, cedar, beech window frames. Again, you've got a multiple option there, depending on what you want to do and how you justify that. Or windowsills, a laminate flooring. You could even use a manufactured board such as plywood or chipboard. You could have different types of doors or different types of cladding on your house, such as mahogany, pine, oak. Really, as long as you've justified 3 different materials and why you've used them, you'd get the marks in a GCSE answer there. B, follow the interior view, below is an interior view of a house. Suggest a suitable timber-based material for making each of the following. So kitchen cabinets, front door, wardrobes, and dining table. Okay, so for each of your answers, describe the properties and make these an appropriate choice. So again, here the answers all kind of lumped together. So for the kitchen cabinet, you've got your chipboard and MDF. Well, chipboard, MDF, any manufactured board is going to be low cost. It's going to be available in great standardized sheets, which is going to give you minimal waste. There's going to be no natural faults like knots, so you're not going to get that pine knot, which you're going to have to plan around, which is great. The downside is, yes, you need to laminate them or add a veneer to them to give them moisture or water resistance to make them a bit stronger as well. You've got your front door. You're probably going to use some sort of hardwood, maybe oak or mahogany. Why? Because it has the natural treatments already built in. They're very hard and durable. You could also go with pine as long as it's painted or coated for protection. You've got your wardrobe doors. Again, probably going to be some sort of chipboard. It's cheap, cheerful. It doesn't need too much structure. So laminated or veneered chipboard, because in the bedroom you probably want it to look aesthetic and quite nice. So MDF. When it talks about HDF there, that's high density fibre board. You actually get LDF, MDF and HDF, all standing for low, medium and high density fibre boards. And they're very cost effective. Then the last one there, premium quality dining table. So they put that in there to kind of say to you, well, this can't be chipboard and it's probably not going to be a softwood either. So premium quality, we're going to think hardwoods, aren't we? So oak or mahogany, it's going to be hard wearing. It's going to be very attractive generally because of that natural grain structure that it provides and it has that real nice aesthetic. Okay. Right, everybody. Thank you for listening. There's a few questions there that you can write down if you've finished and answer. And then should you be finished, you've also got your homework sheets to have a look at today. Okay, I'll see you all soon.